All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today is just an absolutely massive day at the 2026 World Cup. Matchday 2 is bringing us a high-stakes North American doubleheader. We've got both Canada and the United States opening their campaigns today. And, while the energy of playing a World Cup at home is incredible, the burden of expectation can honestly be crushing. So today, we are breaking down two really critical matchups. We have Canada taking on Bosnia Herzegovina, and the U.S. men's national team facing off against Paraguay. Both of these hosts are going up against highly capable opponents who are more than ready to play spoiler to the home crowds.
Here is the roadmap for what we're covering today. We'll start with the host nation pressure, then Canada's quest for history, Bosnia's unbeaten run, the completely unpredictable USMNT, Paraguay's giant slaying threat, and we'll wrap up with the star players and the odds.
Section 1. The host nation pressure.
Just look at the sheer geographical and emotional scale of today's fixtures. It's wild. At 3 p.m. Eastern, we're up in Toronto, where Canada is desperately looking to spark their tournament and basically overcome decades of frustration. Then, for the nightcap, at 9 p.m. Eastern, we head all the way over to Los Angeles. Mauricio Pochettino's U.S. squad is going to step onto the pitch with the eyes of the entire nation on them. Both of these teams literally have everything to prove today.
Section 2. Canada's quest for history.
6.
Just 6. That is a really heavy, pretty daunting number hanging over the Canadian men's national team right now. They've played 6 games in their World Cup history across the 1986 and 2022 tournaments, and they have suffered 6 completely pointless losses, 0 points. They had a deeply disappointing run in Qatar 4 years ago, which means today isn't just about starting this tournament off on the right foot. It's about taking their first ever positive steps at a World Cup, period. But it's not all doom and gloom. There's actually a very real reason for optimism up in Toronto. Ever since that incredible 2024 Copa America semifinal run, Canada has really surged under head coach Jesse Marsch. Just look at this recent form. In their last 23 matches, they've only lost twice. They have basically built an absolute fortress at the back. Since that Copa run, they've conceded more than 1 goal exactly twice, once to Croatia and once to Iceland. That defensive stability has skyrocketed them up to 30th in the FIFA World Rankings. So their defense has been their superpower, right? Well, suddenly, they are looking at a major crisis. Take a look at this injury report just hours before kickoff. Superstar left back Alphonso Davies is dealing with a hamstring injury and he's doubtful. And to make matters worse, central defender Moise Bombito is listed as day-to-day. If Canada's backline is compromised today, that completely shifts the entire tactical reality of this game. Moving to Section 3, Bosnia's dangerous unbeaten run. Listen, do not let their FIFA ranking of 64 fool you for a second. This is a team riding an 8-game unbeaten streak. They haven't tasted defeat since a qualifier against Austria way back in September. They're stepping onto that pitch in Toronto absolutely overflowing with confidence. And their path to get here under head coach Sergei Barbarez? Pure drama. Back in March, during the World Cup qualifying playoffs, they had to go through Wales and then heavyweights Italy. And they survived both of those intense, high-pressure games via penalty shootouts. They've got these young stars stepping up out of nowhere, like Asmir Bajar-Tarvik, the Milwaukee Messi, who played 120 minutes in both of those playoffs and buried a crucial penalty against Italy. They are battle-tested and they are fearless. Section 4. The unpredictable USMNT. Okay, to say the Mauricio Pochettino era has been a wild roller coaster would honestly be the understatement of the year. The highs, they make them look like world beaters. I mean, they pulled off a resounding 5-1 thrashing over Uruguay, and they actually beat tonight's opponent, Paraguay, 2-1 back in November. But then you have the lows. Ugly losses to Panama, Canada, and Mexico early on, and recent struggles against Belgium, Portugal, and Germany were just absolutely costly mistakes totally sank them. They are arguably the most difficult team to predict in this entire tournament. Literally any scenario is possible tonight. However, if you're a US fan, these are the 2 bullet points you desperately want to see heading into tonight. First, it looks like defensive stability is on the horizon. Their best center defender, Chris Richards, appears ready to go after suffering that ankle injury with Crystal Palace 3 weeks ago. Second, Christian Pulisic finally ended his 2026 scoring drought against Senegal in a tune-up match. If that defense is anchored by Richards and Pulisic is actually finding the back of the net, this US team becomes incredibly dangerous.
Section 5. Paraguay's giant slaying threat.
So Paraguay is playing in their 9th World Cup, and they're looking to replicate that massive quarterfinal run they had in 2010. If you want to know just how good this squad is, you just have to look at the South American qualifying margins. Argentina finished first, obviously, but underneath them, the margins were razor thin. Ecuador had 29 points. Then Colombia, Uruguay, Brazil, and Paraguay all completely deadlocked with 28 points. Paraguay was going neck and neck with the absolute heavyweights of global soccer. And they didn't just hang with those heavyweights, they beat them. Under head coach Gustavo Alfaro, Paraguay secured home wins over Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay during qualifying. They've got this brilliant blend of experience and youth. You've got decorated veterans like Miguel Almiron and their 33-year-old captain Gustavo Gomez, a total Palmeiras legend. And then you mix them with breakout young talent like Diego Gomez, who is now a regular in the Premier League for Brighton. Make no mistake, they know exactly how to slay giants. Which brings us to Section 6, Star Players and the Odds. We're starting with the number 40. That is the age of Bosnia's captain, Edin Džeko. He is their all-time leading scorer, their most capped player, and at 40 years old, he is still their ultimate threat. He scored 5 international goals last year, including a late equalizer against Wales that quite literally kept their World Cup dreams alive. He remains the absolute focal point that Canada has to neutralize today. For Canada, the big barometer is Jonathan David. Look, after 5 amazing years at Lille in France, he moved to Juventus last year, and honestly, it was a really tough season. He managed just 6 goals in Serie A as the club completely failed to qualify for the Champions League. So the big question for Canada today is, which Jonathan David shows up? Because this perfectly frames their tactical reality. If he brings that Lille form, Canada has serious firepower and they become a massive threat to advance. But if he's stuck in that Juventus rut, Canada simply might not have the goals needed to escape Group B, especially if Alphonso Davies isn't out there on the pitch to help create those chances. Meanwhile, over in Los Angeles, the US barometer is without a doubt Christian Pulisic. The AC Milan winger is the intense focal point and the figurehead for a country hosting the majority of this tournament. The pressure sitting on his shoulders tonight is just immense. The key indicator to watch right after kickoff is his energy level. Pay close attention to Pulisic in those opening minutes. If he's energetic, taking players on, creating chances early, the USA will likely dictate the pace and they'll be in great shape. But if Paraguay's defense suffocates him and he's invisible early on, Gustavo Alfaro's men are absolutely primed to pull off an upset in LA. Yet despite all these glaring tactical vulnerabilities and the massive pressure we've been talking about, check out what the betting odds say. Both host nations are actually the favorites to win their respective groups. The USA sits at plus 140 to win Group D, and Canada is plus 180 to win Group B. Meanwhile, the giant slayers Paraguay are at plus 400, and the unbeaten Bosnia is way down at plus 650. Clearly, the markets strongly believe in the power of the home crowd. But as we've seen today, the gap between these teams is razor thin. So I'm going to leave you with this to consider as you settle in to watch the matches today. Between Canada's defensive injury crisis and their historical struggles, and the United States' wild unpredictability against top-tier South American opposition, which host nation's vulnerabilities will ultimately cost them under the crushing pressure of a home World Cup? It's going to be a wild day of soccer. Enjoy the matches, everybody, and we'll see you next time.